Welcome back, and thanks once again for being here to ensure that you have the right resources to help your children live the safest, healthiest, and happiest life possible. Today we're going to talk about one subject that has everything to do with safety, and that is elopement. So what is elopement in autism? Elopement is also known as wandering, and it's a common behavior among children with autism. It refers to when a child leaves a safe environment without permission. They might just run off, run out the front door, run out of a classroom, and just bolt without coming back or listening to anybody calling them, and they can get into dangerous situations. They're often placing themselves in these very difficult types of situations. There have been increased incidences of being hit by a car, or drowning, or completely getting lost. And so the Autism Society really is telling us, the National Autism Association says 49% of autistic children have attempted to elope at one time or another. Now that's half of them. So this is a pretty serious thing. And I talk to a lot of parents in my program who mention it all the time. And we wonder what we can do about it and what might be some causes. So I'm going to be talking about both causes and solutions in today's episode. Know that this behavior will typically peak between the ages of 4 and 7 too. Understanding the causes of elopement is the first step toward reducing its frequency and improving safety. So some of the top causes in elopement in autistic children are sensory overload or sensory seeking. So many children with autism experience sensory processing differences, and they may find certain environments too loud, too bright, or overwhelming. And it leads them to want to flee, to just run out of that environment. And others might seek out sensory-rich experiences like spinning fans or running water or flashing lights. And they might wander off in pursuit of them without thinking that they may be putting themselves in danger. Communication difficulties is another one. Children with limited or nonverbal communication skills may elope as a way to express a need or an emotion. Elopement becomes a nonverbal message saying, I'm upset, I need a break, I don't understand. So watch when your child is eloping if you're noticing anything happening just prior to that, to their elopement. Number 3 is escaping demands or transitions. And some children elope to avoid non-preferred activities such as schoolwork, chores, or social interaction. Elopement can also function as a behavioral response to challenging expectations or transitions. Another one is anxiety and fight or flight responses. Autistic children often experience anxiety in social or unfamiliar settings. And for some, running away is a natural response to overwhelming fear, acting as a way to self-soothe and to find some safety. Also, others have impulsivity and poor executive functioning, and this is very, very common in children with autism. They struggle with impulse control and planning. You might see them just burst out doing something automatically, and this could be running out the door, which is elopement, as well as jumping or just all of a sudden blurting something out. It can act in different ways, and elopement is just one way of acting that out. So in some cases, they might impulsively run without a clear goal or without recognizing any potential dangers. Another one is goal-directed wandering. Not all elopement is escaping behavior. Sometimes children are simply trying to reach a desired location, like a favorite playground or a relative's house or even a store that they remember. And one of the most common that I'm going to add in here that is really common and not known about that's a trigger for elopement is phenol sensitivity. Now, elopement is from many things, as I've mentioned, but the sensory overload and impulsivity also come from underlying causes. You know me, I'm all about what is the cause and what are the solutions. So phenols are known to contribute to eloping. What is a phenol? Phenols are the natural colorings in foods such as fruits and vegetables. Phenols are also in artificial colorings that are in yogurt and candy and popsicles and junk food. Usually industrially, they are used industrially. They'll help form and are contained in plastics. They can be an allergen, whether from food or plastic products. And people with poor methylation, such as children with autism, are often very phenol sensitive. because it's very common for children on the autism spectrum to be allergic to phenols. And this is often due to an ill digestive tract, which we know that our kids with autism almost always have. Normally, the body could properly utilize and eliminate phenols, but phenols and salicylates are in most foods. Candida and yeast overgrowth and leaky gut contribute to phenol sensitivity. And leaky gut will allow these chemicals to enter the bloodstream in high concentrations. This alarms the body and triggers the immune response, which creates an allergy to these chemicals. This is called an acquired allergy. So proteins also contain sulfites, which turn to sulfates in the body, and sulfates assist with detoxification and digestion. People on the autism spectrum often have trouble digesting proteins, thus causing a deficiency in sulfates. And this, along with a weakened liver, can cause difficulty digesting and eliminating phenolic chemicals. So remember, it's never just one thing. There are triggers upon triggers upon triggers. So we go down to the root cause and work with them. Phenols are a natural chemical too. Salicylates are a type of phenol, and they're chemically similar to aspirin. Many people who are phenol sensitive are also allergic to salicylates. And these sensitivities create a multitude of physical and behavioral problems. So see, here are some common symptoms from phenol sensitivity. Out of context and unusual laughing. I get this when I, again, ask this question in my program all the time. Erotic moods and behavior, just wild behaviors. Eloping, which I've already talked about here. Night waking, constipation, diarrhea, headaches, cravings for those phenolic foods, and red ears. Now, you want to know more about phenolic foods probably at this point, so you can learn all about them in my podcast number 181, which is titled Understanding Dietary Triggers, Oxalates, Salicylates, Phenols, and Histamines in Autism. And I will link to it in the show notes for you as well. And the show notes for today will be at naturallyrecoveringautism.com/220. So placing video monitors in their room and swimming pool sensors on the doors and windows is also really important. Some ways to alarm you if they run out the door when you don't happen to see them. One mom was recently telling me that her son does this in the middle of the night so she can't sleep, and it's terrifying. So there are ways to put sensors and alarms on doors, and those ones that they make for swimming pools are like screeching loud and piercing. You can't sleep through it. And that's what they're meant to do, is alarm you if a door or a window opens. And they can be bought at any of the, the big box stores or online anywhere. And they're very, very easy to install, and they're not expensive. So let's talk about why it's so dangerous. It's pretty obvious, but these children can be put in life-threatening situations. They don't understand danger or traffic rules a lot of the time, and they really may not be responding to when you call their name. They might be drawn to hazardous areas like water or train tracks. So beware of swimming pools and lakes and oceans nearby that they might get into, because we want to prevent drowning. This is why prevention and early intervention are crucial. So what are some ways to prevent elopement in children with autism? Conduct a functional behavioral assessment and help determine the root cause of the development and guides of behavior for intervention and planning. Implement safety measures in considering GPS trackers, these door alarms we mentioned, secure fencing, and identification bracelets. Teach safety and response skills. Practice name recognition, stopping on command, and walking safely in the community. Use visual supports and social stories. Help your child understand boundaries and expectations through visual schedules. Social narratives and positive reinforcement. Always use positive reinforcement. We always tend to want to lean toward what we can do to stop them from doing it, but tell them what they can do as well. That can be very helpful in giving positive reinforcement when they do the right thing and good things. Also advocate for elopement support in school. This is important. Your school needs to be notified if your child has elopement. Do they have a 504 or an IEP plan? Because if your child elopes in school settings, their IEP should include a safety plan, one-on-one support, or proactive supervision. Another one, be sure to keep your child on a low phenol, low salicylate, and low histamine diet. And you can get my free food guide at naturallyrecoveringautism.com, and also directly to the sheet. The PDF is autismcheatsheet.com, but it shows you what the most triggering foods are, the most inflammatory foods, and also the foods that you want to avoid that can actually affect their health and their behavior negatively. So that's a really good PDF guide for you to have as well. The last one, number 7, is medication is not the answer. One study, which I will link to in the show notes for you, said that called Elopement Patterns and Caregiver Strategies, noted that medications were rated as having very low effectiveness for elopement, whether taken off-label for eloping or for other reasons. Elopement is very, very stressful, yes, but it is not hopeless. Understanding the root causes is a first step toward meaningful prevention, and every behavior communicates something. And with the right support, we can help kids stay safe while honoring who they are. Elopement in children with autism is more than a behavioral challenge. It's a complex, multifaceted issue that deserves attention and compassion. Understanding what triggers elopement is the key to creating safer environments for our children, and with the right tools and awareness, parents and educators can work together to reduce the risk and empower kids to stay safe. If this episode has been helpful for you, please share it with someone else in need and who needs it, because this is a safety hazard for many, many parents, and they're looking for solutions and causes. And there's some ways that we can, especially with the phenol sensitivity, reducing some of the triggers that we have actual control over, and then knowing what some of the solutions are and some of the safety things that we can do in and around our home and at school as well. So thank you so much, as always, for being here, for being such a great parent, caring so much about your children and what you're doing for them. And so until next time I see you, stay well, stay safe, and be happy.